Have you ever wondered about the variety and the differences in projectiles used for rifle and pistol cartridges? Are you confused by terminology like jackets, semi jackets, bearing surface, ogive, hollow points? Well, hopefully today we can clear a little of that up for you. So stick around. Welcome back to CloverTac, where we chain fire freedom. I'm Chris Dover, and today we're going to take a look at projectiles, or as the layman might say, bullets. And we're going to discuss some of the terminology. We're going to look at some of the features, some of the styles of projectiles that are out there. Sort of explain why those features come into play. So before we get started, really into the different types of projectiles here, it's important to understand some basic terminology and what certain portions of a projectile is called, or certain areas of the projectile. And we'll use this one as an example. And we've got our base. This is our base, okay, down here. Then we move into the bearing surface, which would be the flat part here of the projectile. Then it's going to go into a curve, okay, as it heads to the tip, goes into a curve. This is going to be what they call the ogive, or the ogive, spelled O-G-I-V-E. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Then you get into the tip, of course, and that's the four basic parts, if you will, of a projectile. The ogive of a projectile will also dictate how pointy that projectile is and how long that projectile is. The next thing we should talk about probably is composition. Most projectiles are going to be lead in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Now, with a lot of the new regulations and stuff that the government tries to push on us, they want to get away from the lead. They say it's an environmental issue, yada, yada, yada. But in its most basic form, the lead projectile looks something like this. Okay, that's made out of lead. And notice it has rings here on the bearing surface. These rings are filled with wax, which acts as a lube. This bearing surface rides in your rifling, and so this helps to sort of protect that rifling a little bit. Same way with a lead pistol round here. Now, some of the ones down here, and this is a good example, is copper jacketed, meaning it's got a copper jacket all the way around it. But if you look in the end here, you can see it has a lead core. So that is lead that they have swaged copper over the top of. And that sort of eliminates the need for those lube rings like you would on a straight lead projectile. But these here are one solid piece of copper. So there you go. Now, going back to the bases for a minute, there's predominantly two types of bases in a projectile. You've got a flat base, which is exactly that. Now, see how it's just flat on the end, right? No biggie. Same thing on this one. Was that way. Just flat on the end. And then there is what they call the boat tail, which is like down here. Notice there's a taper at the base of the projectile. Now, common logic says that boat tail decreases the drag coefficient, makes this projectile more accurate and actually fly a little better. Now, with the jackets on your projectile, when we talked about the copper jackets before, couple of different types of those. You have a full copper jacket, okay, like this would be. This would also be considered a full copper jacket. And then you've got, this would be more considered a semi-jacketed, not covered on the end down there. And then when you're dealing with lead, this is one of my homemade cast lead. I cast these myself. That's actually a powder coated jacket that I spray and bake onto these. And then this one is the same. This is actually not jacketed. This projectile is actually, it's a copper plated jacket, meaning that they use electrolysis and they plate the copper onto it instead of pressing it on or swaging it on. Now, when we talk about the different tips on a projectile, you've got several different ones running all the way from pistol to the rifle side. Again, those tips are somewhat dictated by that ogive or ogive. I've got a little bug flying around, so ignore him if he gets in the frame here. This would be a flat nose, obviously, and the nose goes to a flat point. This would be a hollow point. This would be a hollow point. And the purpose of a hollow point is for expansion. It's going to get, materials are going to get in that hollow cavity, and it's going to cause it to expand as it fills up. This one would be considered a round nose projectile. This one, you can see a little bit of lead is exposed. That would be considered a soft tip. And then the ones that have a little piece of polymer, these are typically a piece of polymer set into a hollow cavity. And what that does is this pushes down into that hollow cavity and aids in expansion. Okay. And that would be polymer tip, or referred to as a ballistic tip a lot of times. Now, if we take a look at our solid copper ones here, this would be considered a frangible hollow point. Okay. And if you'll notice, see the little lines here in it, the little line segments. As this thing expands, that hollow cavity fills up, and this thing expands. All these little petals are going to break off. They're going to create frags. It's just going to go all to pieces inside whatever softer material you shoot it into. Along the same lines, this is what they call a tipped expanding projectile, and it has little pre-cut grooves in it as well that aid in this expanding quicker. It's got the tip that helps it expand quicker, and it's got the little grooves cut in it to help it expand quicker. One final little fun thing to look at. You've probably seen this little thing sitting in the middle of the screen and thinking, what is that? Well, this is what they call a Sabo, or a sabot. It is spelt, I call it Sabo. It is spelt S-A-B-O-T. And what this is actually the size of a 30 caliber projectile. So you would load this just like you would any other 30 caliber projectile. The thing is, it is designed to take a smaller 224 projectile and put in it. So you, in a sense, turn a 30 caliber cartridge into a 224 or 22 caliber cartridge. And the advantage of that is you get a lot more speed out of this. You can fire these blazing fast with the Sabo rounds. These were commercially loaded once upon a time into what they called accelerator rounds, predominantly in the 30-06 caliber. So that's pretty much it for our little bench video on projectiles here. Hopefully you have learned something about projectiles, a little bit about terminology, about the features and designs. I want to thank you for joining us today. We hope you take this knowledge and chain fire freedom. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out some of our other videos. If you enjoy the channel, why not subscribe? If you want to passively support CloverTac, you can do so by going to CloverTac.com and shopping with one of our wonderful affiliate sponsors.